If you are a volleyball player who wants to jump higher, you're going to want to watch this video because today I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different ways you can do that. Or if you have knee pain or if you want to get faster, there's a lot of stuff we're going to cover in today's video. And this is what I like to call VBSC Q&A. This is one of 3 types of video formats that you're going to see on my page. This one is the Q&A where it's very raw and unscripted. I just have a little bit of notes in front of me on the questions. And I basically take questions from Instagram, from YouTube, and from client calls, things like that. And I just kind of run through a bunch of information-based stuff on this one. You're also going to see the full workout format, which is where I will just post full volleyball workouts, upper body, lower body, full body for jumping higher, hitting harder speed. And you'll definitely see a lot of those type of videos. Those are some of my most popular. And then you'll see the podcast episodes as well. And that's where I get together with my coaches. I have 4 assistant coaches that work with me to train all of these athletes we work with. And we go over a specific topic for that week. So this is going to be video number 2 on VBSC Q&A. And I'm just really trying to put out, honestly, more content for you guys. And just get you guys a lot of information and get you to know me a little bit better. So maybe you will allow me to work with you to make you a better volleyball player. But that is enough of that. Let's get into some of the questions. First question today, the most common question I get, so I had to do it, is how do I jump higher? And this is, it's the whole point of kind of what I do. Obviously, I do more than just like vertical jump, but it's a massive part of what every volleyball player is looking for. So when we really break it down, there's just a couple things, or there's a few main parts of this. The one that, actually, let's start chronologically. If you are a younger athlete, the most beneficial thing you can do to jump as high as possible is to jump as high as you can as often as possible. And when you're young and you have the ability to develop your elastic system really, really well, and before you get knee pain and before you do all these things, you just want to jump as high as possible and teach your muscles how to jump, teach your nervous system how to jump, teach your tendons and your fascia how to jump really high, and just use that time when you're young to get super elastic. And that's going to be one of the overall in your life most beneficial things you can do to jump higher. Now, eventually that either stops working, where you just kind of lose the gains that you've been getting from just jumping, or you start to develop something like knee pain. And that is the time where you want to start introducing lifting so that you can get stronger. And that's the second really big lever you can pull, is just getting stronger. So when we're looking at jumping, it's all about how much force can you produce compared to your body weight. And so how much power you can produce compared to your body weight. So then when we look at power is how much force you can produce and how fast you can produce it. Said another way, how strong are you and how fast are you realistically, and compared to your body weight. So what we want to do is we want to get stronger, we want to get faster, and we want to do that in proportion to how much we weigh, right? So lifting, obviously, is a big part of that force production. And when I say force production, that just means, again, getting stronger. So step 1, just jump as often as your body will allow you to. There's a lot of professional dunkers and things that when they were young, they jumped every single day. They would dunk every single day. Now they jump 40, 45, 48, 50 plus inches, right? Once you need to, then you start lifting weights so that you can increase force production and increase your tendon strength. So we'll talk about knee pain in a little bit, but we'll talk about it in a different way. One of the most beneficial things you can do if you have jumper's knee is to just get the tendons of your knees stronger. And you do that through lifting. Heavy squats, isometrics, slow squats, that type of stuff. I'll go through that on basically its own question, or I have tons of videos on that. Just go look at the workouts or some of the other videos. And basically between those 2 things, like still continuing to jump as often as your body will allow and continuing to get stronger in the weight room, that will take you like a really far way and get you jumping really pretty high. The other aspect that we talked about, where again, jumping high is increasing power production relative to your body weight, is the speed component. So it's not just about how much force you can produce, but it's how fast you can produce that force, or what we call rate of force development. And a really good way to increase your rate of force development is to get faster. So like sprinting and everything like that. We are going to talk about this later too. And so sprinting is a phenomenal thing. I think just every athlete needs to be doing it. Even if you're, an older athlete, you really should work your way back into doing some speed type of things, whether it's full on sprinting or not. It's a very important quality to maintain, and it's something that every athlete can really benefit from. So now we're at jump as high as you can, as often as your body will allow you. Use the weight room to increase force production and increase tendon strength so that you don't get jumper's knee or Achilles tendonitis. And then sprint once or twice a week so that you can get faster, helps you increase your rate of force development. and then allows you to jump higher. And those combination of things, those are the most basic things you can do to jump higher. Now, what most people need to do is they need to take a look at that and figure out which one of those three things do I need to focus on the most? Do I need to jump more often? Do I need to get stronger? And do I need to get faster? And that's a hard thing to figure out. We do give our clients some ways to help them figure out. We have something called the Strength Goals Tracking Sheet, which I can talk about a little bit about, where it can kind of identify where they need to get stronger. And then we have some speed testing we do with like the 10-10 cone drill, the pro agility, just some sprint speed, so that we know if they need to get faster. And then of course, we're going to be jumping a lot, so we kind of have that handled. But you really have to take into account some of the numbers. So it's like, what's your squat relative to your body weight, right? Are you squatting body weight? Are you squatting 1.5 times? Are you squatting 2 times body weight? What about trap bar deadlift? What about all these different things? That's what we really take into account with the Strength Goals Tracking Sheet. If you do want that, easiest way is on Instagram, DM me tracker. That should still be active. And I'll send you a copy of the Strength Goals Tracking Sheet. Or it is available to everyone, and I recommend everybody uses it in my community that I'll talk about here in a little bit too. But just to break it all down, I don't want to spend like too much time on this because this is so much of my content. Jump as high as you can, as often as your body allows you. Get as strong as possible in the gym on all of the major exercises, and use the gym to help keep your knees and tendons and everything else healthy. And then sprint 1 to 2 times a week, or do some kind of speed training 1 to 2 times a week, so that you can increase power production, increase rate of force development. All the things like the plyos, the Olympic lifting, the weighted jumping, like those all fit into like the broad spectrum of a program and help some of those aspects. But if you're really just trying to jump higher, knock out those 3 things first, and then we can talk about all of the rest of the stuff from there. Cool, makes sense? Great. So next question number 2. What do I do if I have knee pain in the back of my knee, or what feels like a swelling inside of the knee? So a lot of the knee pain that we deal with is like that jumper's knee, which is the patella tendonitis, so that pain just below the kneecap. Sometimes quadriceps tendonitis, that pain just above the kneecap on that quad tendon. But there are these other aspects of knee pain, like sometimes you will get swelling inside of the knee. Sometimes you will get that pain on the back of the knee. And so what can you do about that? The first thing, again, let's just preface this with like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physical therapist, I'm a strength conditioning coach. This is not medical advice. This is just me giving my input on a hypothetical situation here, okay? So yeah, don't take this as medical advice. But what we find really helpful, potentially 2 things for the back of the knee. One of the more common things we see is like hamstring tendon issues, like hamstring tendonitis, from a lot of playing or a lot of jumping or whatnot. And so doing isometrics for the hamstring in the same way that we do them for the knee for like 30 to 45 seconds every day if you want to, can help decrease some of that flare up in that pain in the back of the knee. And so things you could do would just be like a leg extension iso hold, a 45-degree back extension iso hold. There's something that we use a lot called a hamstring bridge, which is like a glute bridge, where you push your butt up in the air, but you step your feet out further so that the further your feet away are from you, the more you use your hamstrings. And if you do that on single leg, it's surprisingly tough. And those seem to really help with that if it is a hamstring related issue. If it is kind of the other option is there's some swelling or inflammation on the knee. And so what can happen is when there's swelling or inflammation in the knee, it puts pressure on things, and you can kind of feel that as pain or pressure in the back of the knee. In that case, we have to figure out how to eliminate that swelling, that inflammation. And one of my favorite ways to do that is with a floss band. So a floss band is something that looks like this. It is a 7-foot long stretchy band that you wrap around the joint, and then you take it through a specific range of motion. So you do some squats, or you do some just knee flexion and extension, and you wrap it on pretty tight. It gets you the benefits of compression and blood flow restriction, and it will push a lot of that swelling out. And then when you take it off, a bunch of new blood will come in, and new blood means healing, and we get rid of all the garbage and we bring the good stuff in. And you can do this multiple times a day as well if you are dealing with some of that. If it is an inflammation and swelling type of situation, we need to figure out what's causing that inflammation in general. It could be overuse, it could be something you're doing when you're playing, or it could be nutritionally related. So you may be eating something that is causing some just systemic inflammation in your body, which is just presenting in your knee for whatever reason, maybe because there's an injury there, some old injury or something like that. So take a look at your nutrition. First of all, are you eating a really high quality or taking a really high quality fish oil supplement? If you're not, highly recommend you do that. Or are you eating something that your body doesn't like? Maybe you're gluten intolerant, maybe you're allergic to dairy, maybe you're over consuming alcohol or sugar or fried foods. Just look at cleaning up your diet and see if it starts to go away. What really worked for me is when I would get a flare up of knee pain, of pain inside the knee like that, I would basically look back at the last 24 to 48 hours and see if there was anything that I consumed in that time frame that could explain that excessive swelling or pain that I was getting. And usually that would help me figure out what the case was, right? So if you have a day where you're like, man, it's really bad today, look at all of your activity and everything you've ate and drank in the last 24 to 48 hours and see if you can start to notice a pattern there over time. Now, from the floss band side of things, if you do want kind of a breakdown on how to use that and in demonstration, I just posted one in my community group today. So I'm going to do a quick plug for the community group because it's going to keep coming up. I have a group on School called Volleyball Workouts, and Volleyball Workouts is where you get direct access to me and all of my volleyball workout programs. So I post in there every single day. We do calls every week, and currently there's around 10 programs that you would have access to that are all volleyball workouts, whether you're trying to jump higher, hit harder, get faster, all these different things we're talking about. Just today I posted a 5-minute video on how to do knee flossing because we were on the group call last night and one of the members asked about this specific situation, and I figured I would use this to go in more detail here. So if you click the link, it's going to be in the bio or in my description of this video. It's also going to be in the pinned comment. You can check out Volleyball Workouts. At the time of me posting this, there's a 7-day free trial for it. It's either going to be $39 a month or $49 a month, depending on when you see this video. And you can check it out for there, free for 7 days. If you want to get access to me, again, I post every day. We do a weekly group call. There's a step-by-step course on how to be successful in there. And then, of course, the volleyball workouts that you would get access to that you can follow along with the workouts there. So just a little bit of plug for that. Question number 3. I actually put this on my story last night. I asked what was more important for volleyball players. Was it lateral speed, like moving side to side, or was it sprint speed? And surprisingly, 73% of people said lateral speed as opposed to sprint speed. And I can see why they say that. I'm going to make my case for both. So the reason so many people said lateral speed is because we do a lot more moving side to side with volleyball. We don't do a lot of straight line sprinting, right? Unless you're like a libero chasing down a ball, or, you know, the setter releasing, maybe you're taking like 4 steps or whatever. But that lateral quickness for like blocking, defensive movements, transitioning off the net, like a lot of that is more of that lateral type of speed. So I totally understand why a lot of people say that. Sprint speed, the argument is, one, it's probably a better translation to vertical jump because your approach really is just, it's very dependent on how fast you are. And so the faster you can go, the more speed you can generate into your approach, assuming you can control that speed and make it go up, is a very large determinant of how high you're going to be able to jump. So there is a case for that. And just the overall, like, you're going to move a lot faster going forward than you are moving side to side in any capacity. So just increasing your overall, like, just speed and twitchiness and your ability to move fast going forward and hit top speeds is just going to translate to all other kind of athletic endeavors. And so obviously you don't have to do just one, right? You're going to do both, and we do both in our programs. We do it in a few ways. One is what we call the 10-10 cone drill, which is where you take cones, you put them 10 feet apart, and you shuffle side to side, and you do 10 total touches. Then you would time that, obviously, with the goal over time of decreasing the amount of time it takes you. I really like to do the pro agility, which is where you then have 3 cones that are 5 yards apart. You start in the middle, you sprint, and then sprint back to the finish line. So it's a combination on kind of like lateral speed, sprint speed, and change of direction. So you get a little bit of both in there. And then obviously just like straight up sprinting, whether it's sprinting starts, sprint accelerations, top end speed, that type of stuff, is something that we're working more into the programs now, because a lot more of the research is coming out, or a lot more of even the anecdotal of like people who are jumping really high do a lot of sprinting. It's showing up a lot more. And so we're starting to incorporate more of that. We also had, with my assistant coaches, just a few conversations of like doing film review for clients. And we're like, man, they just kind of look kind of slow, So we just, the weight room will only do a certain amount. Plyometrics will only do a certain amount. Eventually you have to come to the realization that you just have to sprint. And so we are working on implementing more of that into a lot of the programs. So yeah, both are important. You can do both of them. You should do both of them, depending on how much time you have. Maybe they're separate days, maybe they're the same day. Usually for us, it's the same day. We typically work with people who are pretty busy. Question number 4, tips for playing grass volleyball. So grass is extremely popular. I just got back from Waupaca Boat Ride, which is the biggest grass tournament in the world. They set a world record this year with like, 3,900 teams, I believe. There's like 460 courts set up. It was insane. So much fun. If you were there, hopefully I got to meet you. If not, I'll see you next year because I will be there. Come and say hi. I will for sure be there next year. And it's grass triples. They also have grass fours. They have doubles, everything like that. But grass is so popular because you can just set up a net anywhere in a park and you can just play with your friends, right? Now it is, in my opinion, I don't have any data to back this up, the highest injury risk for any of the 3 main types of volleyball, being indoor, grass, and beach. And that is generally because of slippage. So if you're playing in grass that is wet, even slightly wet, or anything like that, it's very easy to slip. Now you pull a hamstring, you pull a groin, you pull a hip flexor, you fall over, land on your arm, something like that. The likelihood is just of that is something that doesn't exist as much in the other 2. And you've even seen, like I just saw a pro player who, like, he said something about every time I play grass, the most important thing for me is just not to get injured, right? Because it, for whatever reason, whether it's that reason or not, is a very high likelihood. So tip number 1 is going to be get the right shoes. And so you don't want to just wear indoor shoes. All of the top grass players wear trail running shoes. And so I have some, they're not in here. I should have grabbed them before the video, but they're the Ultra Lone Peak 9. It's ALTRA, Lone Peak 9. And they're a wide toe box, low drop shoe that has a good amount of conditioning, but they're like borderline cleats. They're not, but they have a lot of grip to them. One of my teammates, Coach Jerry, who played with us, one of the assistant coaches, he had a pair of Nike Trail Runners. Those seem to work really well. And every so often, I'll just reach out to one of my friends, who's also one of my clients, who also won Waupaca for the women this year. Her name is Rachel. And I just ask her, like, what are we doing for shoes? Like, what are the grass players doing for shoes right now? And she's the one that recommended the Ultras to me. So I do really like them because they're a wide toe box. So point number 1 is get yourself some good shoes to wear. And then I would take that and I would train in the grass. Like if you know you have a grass tournament coming up and you have the ability to do your plyos, do your jumping, and do your speed work in grass, then do that. And I did that right outside here. It's kind of my side yard in between the houses. And so I would do my 10-10 Gonjarel, I'd do my pro agility, I would do my max effort jumps in my shoes in the grass, so I could really get a feel for like how my approach had to be, what type of gait I could take, or how far I could get my feet apart on, the lateral change of direction, everything like that. You sort of get used to the slipping a little bit, and you can sort of prepare your body for that a little bit more. And then the last thing that I will say is, because the highest injury risk is with basically like I said, when we slip and we pull a groin, right? Your foot slides out, you do the splits, you pull a groin. What's happening is your muscle is going through enough force at a range of motion that it's not expecting at a very fast interval that it can't handle it, so it rips. So there's multiple parts there. A large range of motion, so you're in a stretch position with a lot of force happening, primarily because there's a lot of speed in that happening. And so what we can do is, we don't really want to intentionally work on slipping in the gym to prepare for that. That's, I think, kind of stupid. I've seen some strength coaches do that. But at least we can get some of that by practicing getting our muscles through long ranges of motion with higher levels of force. So just long range of motion exercises in general. ATG split squats for the hip flexors. ATG Cossack squats for the adductors. Different types of RDLs or single leg RDLs, or long range exercises for the hamstrings, and do those either with higher loads or at some higher speeds, and develop maybe some specificity. Where it's like if you're doing, let's use an example of a Bulgarian split squat. I just saw one of my friends, Ed, doing this, where he was basically dropping down into a Bulgarian split squat, which is taking that back leg hip flexor to a pretty long length. And so he's dropping into that and then rebounding out of that. That's going to teach your muscles to handle those high forces at longer lengths, at higher speeds. And I think there's, that's different, in my opinion, than practicing uncontrolled slipping, because it's more controlled. but it's more of those ballistic movements that you work up to over time at a very slow pace of doing those in more of that stretch type of position, so you're more prepared for grass. And the last question I had, just to go into question 5, was like, how was Waupaca? And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. We did kind of a full breakdown on the podcast episode that is probably coming out either very soon or very, very soon before or very soon after this. I'll probably post this one first, where it was me and assistant coach Dion and our assistant coach Jerry, and we all played together. So we did do a bit of a breakdown on that. Overall, extremely fun experience. I went last year, but I didn't play. Went this year, got to play because the 3 of us got together. We played men's triples, we played double A, and we like kind of got our butts kicked a little bit. We're like, well, we don't want to play open because none of us play grass, and none of us play triples, and none of us have ever played together. So we're all like good players in our own right, but all of those things together, we said we wanted to play double A. And so we went like with no previous practice, like 2-4 in pool play, and then lost in the first round of the playoffs, 48-46 or something like that in a game to 30. It was pretty wild. And we were kind of talking like if we had one day to practice together, like maybe things would have been a little bit different because we could figure out the strategy, everything like that, figure out our blocking and our defense, and, get used to the big court. Jerry's a beach player. Sometimes he would let some balls go because they would have been out on a doubles court, but it's a big court. Get used to, the serving, because there's a no let rule where if the ball hits the net on the serve, it's an error. So get used to like the serving pressure and that type of thing. If we would have just had one day, maybe that would have worked. But overall, the men's double A field was very tight and very competitive. So we lost our first match of pool play, and we didn't get like clobbered. It was maybe 21-17 or 21-18, like something in that. Good younger players from Milwaukee, I believe. And so they didn't like destroy us, and I believe they went all the way to the semis. Dion talks about that or maybe Jerry talks about that in the podcast. They went all the way to the semis of double A, and we were kind of hanging with them, and then we lost early, right? That just goes to show like the depth that there was in that double A field. And it was great. Playing was great. I had a ton of fun. Didn't get hurt, which is like, again, my main goal for playing grass. Got to see a ton of people. If you saw me there, I was super excited to meet you. Got, people taking pictures, and I got to talk to some pros that I haven't seen, some people that I haven't seen in a long time. Just got to meet some new people. Like, there's so many people there, and it's just so much fun to have this just massive volleyball community. The weather was beautiful. It was like 85 and sunny. Just an amazing time. One of my favorite weekends of the year. We'll be planning on going every year for the foreseeable future. I'm 35, so maybe coming up on Masters here pretty soon, which would be pretty cool and give me a little bit of a break, but I think we're going to try to run it back for double A again next year. And overall, it was a great time. My training leading up to that was interesting. I backed off a lot because my number one focus was not to get injured. And so I'm just my history of playing and lifting. I've had a lot of weight room related injuries in my past, just because I've been lifting since I was 12, and I've done a lot of stupid stuff and, got really strong, and there's whatever. I've had a lot of injuries, more so than playing volleyball. So I really backed off of my workouts. I really backed off the weight that I was lifting. My number one thing, Dion was coming from Toronto. Jerry was coming from Florida. They're, paying for their travel and all these different things. And the only thing I cared about was being able to play with them on that day, because I would have just been so just disappointed if something would have happened. So I did really back off. Now that I'm back, we went to Waupaca, then we had a week or so, about a week with my in-laws in Minnesota. And now we're back and getting back to some hard training. But I was doing a lot of speed and agility work, a lot of prepping in the grass, like I talked about before, more like maintenance level on the weight room side of things, but not really pushing things. And so now going forward, I'm really going to be pushing into some of the weirder stuff that you may see me do, like on some of the more recent videos, the landmine work, the kettlebell work, maybe some sandbags, some more non-traditional type of stuff, which personally I love, some of my favorite types of training. So definitely keep an eye out for some of those long form videos that are going to be coming out with some of that stuff and some of those more unique styles of training. And it should be really interesting, and definitely keep an eye out for that. So that's going to be all for today. We're actually coming up on about 25 minutes. So if you do have questions for me that you want me to answer on next week's video, my goal is to do one of these every single week. Just drop those down in the comments, and that's going to be the primary place that I want to pull from. I do pull from Instagram. I pull from the YouTube comments just in general, but leave a comment down below if you have a specific question you want answered in next week's video. And then don't forget to check out Volleyball Workouts, my community group. It's going to be the link in the description, and it's going to be in the pinned comment. You can do a 7-day free trial to check out the workout, see if it's something you like, see the community group, get on a call with me, go through the classroom. Not only is there a step-by-step course on like, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. So you make sure you have everything set up, but there's also like an educational course in there talking about why we do the type of training. There's a bunch of stuff on nutrition, how to set up calories and macros if you want to do that. I created an AI meal planner that you can use if you want like more of a meal plan. And so you can try that for free for 7 days before you have to pay anything. If you are looking for more one-on-one coaching, there is an upgrade option available in there, where you can get one-on-one coaching from me and my team, customized programs, more frequent calls, everything like that, personalized calls. So check out the link in the description. It's also going to be in the comments. And don't forget, again, one more time, leave a comment down below so we can do something next week. Keep an eye out for next week's video.